Welcome back for Season 3 of All Things Excellence, where women in leadership and business come to be challenged to learn and to grow. I'm your host, Chelsea DeBruin-Colbert, clarity coach, Enneagram guide, community builder, and your go-to girl for becoming the most excellent version of yourself. Here on All Things Excellence, we are obsessed with shining light on women who are doing the deep work and playing full out in the arena. We bring you their brilliance, their stories, and the magic they bring into the world. This season, I'm determined to step into the most powerful, profitable, peaceful, and aligned version of myself yet. So buckle up, because I'm bringing you with me. When one woman rises, we all get permission to rise as well. If you're ready to grow, rise, and step into your next level with effortless ease and love being surrounded by women who are doing the same, you're in the right place. Welcome to All Things Excellence. Hey, All Things Excellence fam. Welcome to today's episode on structure in shifting seasons. You've heard me say it before. Every 90 days, a woman's life drastically changes. So when you're in the world of sales, you always want to make sure you touch base with her because things in her life have changed. And if you're second guessing me and you're thinking, I think you're being a little dramatic, every 90 days, drastic change, I want you to stop for a minute. And I want you to think back to 90 days ago. If you're listening to this episode the moment that it launches, we're talking about mid-January. I want you to think about mid-January. What were you most excited about? Where did you spend the majority of your time? Who were the people you talked to and spent the most time with? What life or business goals were you locked into and focused on? Where was your health, your physical health? Were you more or were you less committed? Personally, every quarter I do a check-in. Kobe and I do a check-in with our marriage, with our personal goals, with our, we have our individual goals, we have our marriage goals, and we sit down at the kitchen table and we check in together. We have accountability with each other, and we go over our areas of growth and we go over our 3 stretch goals. So if you've been here before, there are 8 areas of growth every year. We pick 3 stretch goals to go after. And what I can tell you all from what was happening 90 days ago to what's happening right now, I've had a few things that are tiny things that are creating major shifts in my life. First of all, my favorite Pilates instructor that I see multiple times a week, she has officially resigned from my Pilates studio. I've been working with her for 7 years. I moved here in the beginning of 2019 and she was here by May teaching. So my entire schedule has shifted because the same level of instructor is absolutely not replacing her. So I've got to look for a different workout instructor. I've got to look at a different work schedule. I've had a shift then in my friend time. The Pilates classes 2 to 3 times a week that I were going to, that was the core time that I was spending with local friends. And so the when, the how, the where I work out has shifted, the friend time has shifted, the working out schedule has shifted. The other major shift, it's the end of the school sports year. We have 1 or 2 weeks left in sports, and I'm no longer needing to run out of my office every single day at 3 p.m. to make it to a game so I could spend time with Kobe and the kids. And that's done until about August 21st when we have our very first home football game, which kind of blows my mind that we're 4 months out from the first home football game of the new school year. And then summer, summer. I have a lot of travel happening from May through the end of October. I have 6 months where I get to travel so much every single month, 1 to 2 times a month on a plane, going somewhere. And I love it. My best, biggest, greatest, most abundant seasons always come when I am up and out and on a plane, going places that are fun, sometimes new, sometimes just going to see the kids, spending time with friends, going to conferences. I've got a couple retreats that I'm executing. I've got a couple retreats that I'm attending. So just a lot of travel that I'm really excited about, but that also makes a shift in my schedule. And one of the biggest things has been my workouts. Like, what is that going to look like? And I'll tell you, I'm coming off this season where pretty much for the last 7 years, except for through the sticky time through COVID, my entire life revolved around this Monday, Wednesday, Friday class. Sometimes I would look at traveling out of town and, doing the life that I used to do where I would travel a lot on the weekends. And out of state out on the weekends, and I would look at it and I would go like, I don't want to do that though, because I'm going to miss Friday's class, I'm going to miss Monday's class, and that's just so inconvenient. And I can see a lot of places in my life where my time with my friends at my workout superseded the importance of making headway in my career. Well, unfortunately, I am no longer in that spot, partially because for about a decade, I lived where working out with my friends took priority over my career ambitions. And then I got to a point where I needed to reorder that, because we all know I married somebody whose life mission is in education. And it's really interesting because the whole like Kobe's life mission being in public education, being a coach, being an athletic manager, being a teacher, I've always given him a lot of grief in that, and I joke around about it a lot. My coach has really made me analyze, like, do you have some weird resentment in that? I'm like, no, but like it's annoying to me sometimes. So I poke fun at it. It makes me feel better. My brothers and I were those kind of people that we poke fun at each other. That's how we show our love, right? And I will tell you that one of our really dear friends and fellow coaches at our school, he, we lost him a couple months ago, to mental illness. And getting to sit at his funeral this past Friday, it really settled my soul on how lucky I am to be married to someone that chooses to dedicate their entire life to public education. And while I've been going through these past couple of weeks, knowing about Pilates, knowing things were shifting, knowing the sports season was ending, knowing I had a lot of travel coming up, just knowing that my schedule needed to look different on a daily basis, it had those feelings coming back up where there's a lot of conversations happening with some of my friends. They're giving me a lot of shit about not shifting with them and what they're choosing to do with Pilates to keep the friend group together. And I found myself saying a lot like, it would be so nice if I could just be a Pilates wife. Like, it would just be so nice if my husband didn't make $21 an hour working for a school, and we didn't spend his entire coaching stipend taking care of the team, and I could just rearrange my entire life and go to Pilates. And so maybe there was a little bit of resentment creeping up. And then for that funeral to happen this past Friday, in the midst of me working on so much stuff with this schedule, analyzing my quarterly goals and looking at them, it was very shifting for me. And God is good, right? Like, He will make goodness out of every situation. And so I feel like it was a good check, a good little ego check for me to remind me that I am very lucky and I am very blessed that I get to be married to somebody that has given their life to education and to kids, because public education is not for the faint of heart, and that I get to put my head down every day and be really disciplined with my schedule and build a career that allows us to still have our dream life while we get to dedicate so much of our lives to the kids in the school. So how I navigate and maintain structure in these shifting seasons, this is what I want to talk to y'all about today. How do I navigate this? Because it's not if we have seasons where things are shifting and changing. It really is every 90 days. And it may look literally quarterly, like for you, in this January to March, or it may shift a little different. I tend to notice with people with kids, it's more in this like January to early, I would say January to April flow. And then you've got May, December stands alone. You've got the June, July, August summer ordeal thing. Unless you live in Arizona, we start school in the middle of July. And then, September through November is its own thing. And then December is its own island. And so I want to talk about how to navigate and maintain structure in these shifting seasons that you're always going to have all year long. So there's 4 things that I do. The first thing that I do is I go back and I look at my 8 areas of growth, and I assess my 2026 stretch goals, and I order my priorities. So for me personally, my top 3 goals in 2026 are 1, physical, 2, career, and 3, financial. So out of the 8 areas, the 3 that I'm most focused on for 2026 are physical, career, and financial. I know for a fact that my physical health, right, the health of my body, my energy, my brain health, drives my career results, which drives my financial results. Okay? The biggest thing about the focus for physical this year, I'm always focused on physical. I'm always really cognizant of it. I know that, how much energy I have affects my brain health and my emotional stability, and I know everything. Like everything I'm putting in my body, how much I'm letting myself sleep, if I'm working out, dictates how well I'm having really great creative thoughts, how well I'm completing tasks. Literally, I'm not kidding when I say my emotional stability. That's one of the biggest reasons that I don't drink alcohol anymore. Like, yes, I joke that I can't afford to be hungover for 5 days because I really don't feel great for about 5 days. But the biggest thing that I noticed was, as someone who continuously struggles with a little bit of emotional instability, one thing that I found was a common factor was the stuff that I was putting in my body. And we now know from studies that the status of our gut greatly impacts the status of our emotional stability. And I just found that pulling alcohol out of my diet created so much more emotional stability for me, and I wasn't having to constantly reset my gut. So that's a huge thing for me. And so it always has been. I've always had a really big focus on eating for energy, eating for brain health. But the biggest thing is, my husband and I were both 41 years old. And so we are really in our last swing for kids era. So we are not only just, we are not just eating for energy and brain health. We are eating for, lack of better words, y'all, egg and sperm health. There you go. What you're eating, what you're doing with your body, what you're putting on your body, like the type of stressful environments you're surrounding yourself with, all of the environmental factors. We're at the age where we do not have the luxury to just laissez-faire life. We have to be really intentional with it. Now, I know you might be thinking, okay, but if physical is your number one focus for the year, wouldn't you do whatever it takes to get to these Pilates classes? Yes, but also no. Proper workouts and nutrition, right? Anything for the egg health. Yes. Not like your eggs inside your ovaries. But the timing has to be around my career, because what I know is my peak work hours are about 8:30 a.m. to 2:30. Once I get to 2:30, I'm pushing through, I'm using willpower, and it's not my best work. So I know that I've got to get in my office by 8:30, and the tasks that are the hardest tasks for me to complete have to be completed by 2:30 if I want to complete them well, and not with push energy, but with energy of ease. Now, notice I said physical is my number one area, not friends. And I think that can be hard for people, because I have had previous seasons in my life where friends were really far at the bottom of my 8 areas, like maybe at the very bottom. And I think sometimes that can be hard for our friends to hear. But here's what I will tell you from having multiple seasons where friends were not in the top 5 things that I was concerned with out of my 8 areas, is the right friendships will always survive, right? The right friendships will always survive. The right friends always understand your goals. And I have to ask myself in this current season, where else can I connect with my Pilates friends? How can I feel as connected to them, but execute that connection differently and also maybe better? So instead of, running in hot, trying to get there early and talk to them for 5 minutes while we stand outside, joking with them throughout the class, staying after in the parking lot for an hour, feeling like, I always, honestly, y'all, I never feel guilt unless I'm staying in the Pilates parking lot. Staying in that Pilates parking lot, talking to them, that is where I had the most guilt, where I'm like, I need to go right now. Like, I am burning daylight. I am burning my very best working hours right now. But I also feel guilty just jumping in my car and leaving and running away, because I always feel like they're going to be like, oh my gosh, all she does is work. I have this internal monologue going on inside my head. So number 2, the second thing I do, remember, the first thing I do is I look at the 8 areas in my 2026 stretch goals, and I assess, where am I at with my top 3 stretch goals that I've picked for the year? Again, physical, career, and financial. So then the second thing I do, are there any adjustments I need to make to my goals and metrics? The goals that I've set up, those 3 goals, physical, career, financial, do I need to adjust my goals? How am I doing? We're a quarter of the way through the year. We're almost a third of the way through a year. Do I need to adjust Do I need to increase them? Do I need to decrease them? Do I need to get a little grounded in reality on some of them? And I need to look at the metrics. The metrics are the daily to-dos that I set for myself to do to make progress towards achieving these goals that I want to achieve in 2026. Do I need to adjust those metrics because maybe reality, dreams, or even my offers have shifted? Something I can tell you all from a career standpoint is there's a couple offers that I had with my business where at the beginning of the year they were a huge emphasis. And now I can see those offers are coming to a close. So, where I'm putting my time, talent, and energy is going to really be shifting. Okay. The third thing I do is then I head to my calendar and I have a really, really big date with if you're watching on YouTube, you'll see it, my Plan Your Week sheet. Okay. So, when I did this, when I looked at my physical, my career, and my financial, I looked at the goals that I have for 2026. There were a few adjustments that I needed to make, just some things that have shifted. Think like Pilates has shifted. My offers have shifted. I have made some commitments to invest in some things a little bit longer that I was not going to invest in as long. So I had to make some shifts on our financial goals. Kobe's schooling adjusted, had to make some shifts there with our financial goals. And in doing that, and then looking at my calendar, I also realized some gaps where I was not making the progress that I should be making in some areas of my career. And what I identified with that was I was missing my meditation and visualization time. I wasn't being as consistent or as long with my meditation and my visualization time, where I spend very specific, a dedicated 15 to 20 minutes in that deep dreaming process where if you've heard anything about athletes, they always tell you that you want to execute your athletic routine in your brain. So you're so familiar with it that when then you're living it out, you're executing it just like you've memorized it in your head a million times. Especially, you hear a lot of gymnasts talking about that, like memorizing their routine, seeing themselves execute it so well. And so something that I need to do is I needed to be spending more very intentional, specific time back in my meditating and my visualization time. I signed up for a women's weight training course because here's what I know. I need somebody to tell me what to do. I need to wake up, click on the calendar and go, what is Coco telling me to do today? This is what I'm going to do today. These are the weights that I need. I don't want to flip through this huge catalog of thousands of workouts. I just want to go, it's Tuesday. Tell me what I'm supposed to do today. And I want it to be well thought out where when I get to the end of the week of the workouts, I've worked my entire body the way that I'm supposed to for being a 41-year-old woman. And then I went into my time blocking. I took these couple of things that needed to pivot. So I'm only going to be working out at home for the foreseeable future. Now I know my Pilates instructor, she's probably listening to this being like, but you need someone watching you. Okay, while this is true, I highly believe in hiring someone to help you on your physical goals, to help you track your nutrition, to help you track your form, make sure you're doing well. Sometimes there are just seasons where we just don't get to do that. As someone who's a coach, like I'm a business coach for women in leadership and women in leadership and business, this is what I can tell you. Do I think that every single woman in a leadership position or as an entrepreneur should always have a coach? Yeah, I do. I think you're absolutely insane to think that you can see your own blind spots, that you can navigate all of your stuff alone. I think you're literally insane thinking that you can do that. Now, do I accept the fact that sometimes there are 3 to 6 month seasons where they're like, this, I would literally be lighting money on fire. I got so much going on. There's nothing I have no business. I have no business having a coach right now. I just need to go into survival for the next 6 months and do what I got to do. My kids are coming home for the summer, whatever it is. So I know for myself, when I took a step back and I looked at my travel schedule for the next 6 months, I realized that what is most important is a routine, is that I have this thing that I can wake up and do every single day, Monday through Friday, regardless whether I'm at home, in a hotel, in an Airbnb, I'm in Phoenix, or I'm like halfway across the country in God knows whatever state in America or in the world. And that's the most important thing, is that I had this routine. So I took those thoughts and then I started time blocking. I took my plan your week sheet and I looked at it and I went, okay, so here's the reality of what my morning routine has to look like. A really great nighttime routine and a really great morning routine are the key components to having a wildly successful day. My morning routine, I went, okay, I've got to have 15 minutes to wake up and get changed. Every morning I roll out of bed, I lay on the floor, Chloe's bed is next to my bed, I kiss all over her little fuzzy face for like 5 minutes and just lay there with her. She's almost 17 years old. It's like one of the most important parts of my day. Just, it's soaking up those last little moments as she's getting older. Then I stumble in. Kobe's usually already working out. I say good morning to him. He gives me a hug and a kiss. Then I go back and I change. I have to account for those 15 minutes that it takes for me to wake up, say good morning to Chloe, say good morning to Kobe. Then I immediately get changed and I spend 20 minutes on the Peloton and the treadmill. Then I spend 45 minutes in my strength workout. There's about 10 minutes of transition time, moving around the house, maybe refilling my water. Then I go into a 45 minutes for my quiet time where I'm reading, journaling, reflecting, creating, writing, just sitting there. Sometimes the majority of my quiet time can be sat doing nothing but sitting with a hot cup of coffee, watching the wind blow in the palm trees, and just writing out gratitude and appreciating all the goodness that God has brought into my life. Sometimes that's my entire morning time. Then I go into 20 minutes in the sauna and meditation. So also 90 days ago, I had the most insane perioral dermatitis breakout all over my face, where all around I looked like the wildest, like child lip licker that spent way too much time outside in the snow with chapped lips, just like licking their whole face. And the entire area surrounding, like a 1.5 to 2 inch circle surrounding my mouth, was not just like on fire red, but peeling, bleeding. It was not a fun experience. So 90 days ago, I had to quit sitting in the sauna because the sauna was making the perioral dermatitis worse. So now here I am. I've gotten out of the habit of sitting in that sauna for 20 minutes every day. So I've got to get back in the habit, which is also where my meditation visualization time got lost. So I'm reintegrating that back in and then giving myself 25 minutes to shower and get ready. Everything showers for me always happen on Sunday nights. So that way I can be up, ready, and ready to go for the week. And so I even plan that out. Y'all got to plan out an everything shower. That takes some hours. I also build in 30 minutes with Kobe where he's getting ready to go to work. We're making his lunch. We're just chatting, talking about our day. Next thing, I will not sacrifice 7 to 8 hours of sleep because I know that the success of today began last night. And it's not even for me what I personally noticed for my body. And I dare you to just play around with this in your own life. It is not that I get 7 to 8 hours of sleep. It's that I get a very specific 7 to 8 hours of sleep. That no later than 10 o'clock, my body has fallen asleep and is going to sleep for the next 7 to 8 hours. Now, does Chloe wake me up most nights? Yes. If I didn't have Chloe, I would only need 7 hours. But because I have Chloe, she likes to wake me up for quite a time in the middle of the night to just do whatever she wants to do. She likes to eat in the middle of the night. There's no break in that habit. I allot 8 hours so that way I can fall back to sleep and get some solid hours. And so knowing that, right? Knowing that I need a very specific 7 to 8 hours of sleep, knowing that I have this 3.5 hour chunk of time in the morning where I'm getting my workouts in, my quiet time, my sauna, my meditation. I'm spending time with Kobe before he goes out to his day, and that my peak hours are being in the office from 9 to 3. I realize I've got to start waking up at 5:30. Forget 6. I've got to start waking up at 5:30, which means I need to be asleep by 9:30, which means I need to be in bed by 8:30, which means my nighttime routine needs to start by 7:30. If you are staying up way too late, and you're going, oh my gosh, I could never start my evening routine by 7:30. Okay. I would challenge you to look at why. And in this season, it might be kids. It might just be like, you're like, oh my gosh, we're just getting to the field at that time of night. We're just going to practice. Now, what I can tell you is this isn't going to be forever. Like, this specific schedule isn't going to work forever, because when we get into football and volleyball season, Kobe's not even coming home until like 9:30 at night. And so it does look a little bit different in that season. But this is what's going to happen in this next season. Because remember, that's what this is all about. It's all about creating structure in shifting seasons, looking at what are your goals right now? What are the most important things that you want to accomplish? What is the effort that you need to be putting in? What are the metrics that you need to have set up so you're going after your goals and getting those? You have to want your dream life more than you care about all the crap your friends are going to give you. Okay? You have to want your dream life more than you care about all the crap that your friends are going to give you. Because I guarantee when you guys sit down and you start making a highly structured schedule for yourself, which I encourage you to do, because there is no greater freedom than the freedom you get from having great discipline and great structure. Structure and discipline are literally what creates the greatest feeling of freedom, because you're not feeling torn between all the different tasks that you should be doing. But when you sit down to do that, not only are your friends going to give you grief, because next thing you know, you're not standing in the Pilates parking lot for hours. You're not, going to weird random things way too late on a Thursday night because you're like, that just doesn't fit in my schedule. I've got to wake up early on Friday because I've got to, kick butt and take names on Friday. Like, I can't afford to stay up until 11 o'clock at night. They're going to be giving you grief. You have to want your dream life more than you care about all the crap your friends are going to say. I have been told, we know I have a lot of tenacity, but I've also been told that I have a higher level of self-discipline than most people. And I want to argue that. I was talking to my friend Steph about this the other day. I said, do I have a high level of discipline, or do I have a ridiculous amount of clarity and self-assurance? I know exactly what I want, and I know exactly who I am, and I know what it takes to get there. So do we need more discipline, or do we need more clarity as to what we want? And that self-assurance in our identity of who we are, that we deserve it, and that we're going after it, and that we're getting it. At my retreats, we always make these little vision journals. It's one of my favorite things that we do. And I take that and I pour through that thing every single day. It has all of my greatest dreams in it, through photos, words. I've journaled to myself, quotes, just scouring the internet for things that I want to bring into my life, and scrapbooking the heck out of it in this little vision journal. And I pour through that thing every single day, because that journal is what keeps me anchored to the things that are the most important to me, to the things that I want. And when you get deeply rooted in who you are, what you've been called to do, what you've been called to create, and you have extreme clarity on the steps to take today, not the steps to take 90 days from now, but the steps to take today to be able to get there, to start making the moves that you need to make to get towards that dream life. Discipline is just not that hard, because you want what you want more than you want to sleep in. You want what you want more than you want to eat that piece of cake. You want what you want more than you want that margarita. And I always have to remind myself that I don't take places from people that I don't want to trade places with. Right? Don't take advice from people you don't want to trade places with. If you don't want their marriage, you don't want their health, you don't want their business, do not be taking advice from them. And absolutely no one is going to make my dreams happen but me. I have to remind myself, like, they're not the ones making and birthing my kids. They can give me crap all day long that I want to drink a margarita, but they're not the ones that are going to be 45 years old without kids and crying in the corner because they didn't prioritize their egg health that would help create a better scenario to get pregnant to have kids. They're not the ones that have to live with those consequences. They're not the ones paying your bills. They're not the ones buying your dream home. They're not the ones married to your husband when they're giving you really crappy advice on what you need to do with him. Like, if you don't want their marriage, do not take advice from them. They're also not the ones that are going to be living inside your 80-year-old body, right? So when people want to give me grief about how I want to work out and when I want to work out and what I want to do and how strict I am about my sleep, I just think, are they going to be living in my 80-year-old body, or am I? Are they going to be the ones sitting in the financial choices at 80 years old, or am I? Are they going to pay for my life? Are they going to buy my dream home? Are they going to donate me a kid when I can't have one on my own because I didn't prioritize my stress level and my health and what I was doing to my body and putting in my body and surrounding my body with? No, they're not. Then the fourth thing that I do is I email my coach. I email my coach because I want added perspective. I want accountability. I want a processing partner. And I want someone to see my blind spots. Do you know what blind spots are? If you don't know what blind spots are, we got a whole nother conversation we need to have. You should probably DM me on Instagram so we can talk about what blind spots are. Blind spots are these things that are absolutely impossible for anybody, for you to see. Other people see them, but you cannot see them. That's why it's called a blind spot. Like in your car, when you have a blind spot in your car, you literally can't see it no matter what you do because there's this whole piece of your car that's blocking your view. You have that in life as well. Now, here's the thing about blind spots. You have to give people permission to speak to the blind spots. And also, people need to give you permission to speak to the blind spots. I walk around every single day of my life and I see a lot of blind spots in people. Yesterday, one of our good friends, we're sitting under the tent at the baseball game and he's like bringing up things. We're talking about the Enneagram and I've gotten really good. I've gotten so much better at life, y'all, at realizing now is not the most appropriate time to answer the question that he's asking. He even was giving me permission. It was like, I'm bringing it up. We're talking about it. Here's the permission. I know I have the permission, but then I kind of glanced at the people around me and I kept it inside. And I thought, you know what? There's some blind spots here that you can't see because you're you, but I can see because I'm me. And you've even given me permission to speak about them. But it's just not the most appropriate time to speak about them around people. So remember that. You give someone permission to speak to your blind spots, but you also need to be given permission to speak to somebody else's blind spots. I believe that the best coaches in the world are being coached. Again, this is why I'm always emailing my coach. And that you should never run a thriving, scaling business alone. Because again, you need someone else's perspective, you need accountability, you need a processing partner, and you need somebody to see those blind spots. I want y'all to remember that change is constant. Seasons always bring change. You're never going to not have seasons. Every 90 days is going to look different. I guarantee y'all, if you could even give 3 minutes to think about where was your life 90 days ago? Ask those questions. What were you most excited about? Where did you spend the majority of your time? Who were the people you talked to and spent the most time with? What life and business goals were you locked in and focused on? And your health, were you more committed or less committed 90 days ago? What was going on in your life 90 days? And then think 90 days out. If you're listening to this live, we're basically at the end of July. What is your life going to look like at the end of July? What things you're going to be shifting and changing? Maybe you have kids that are graduating. Maybe you have kids that are going to be going to school for the first time. Whatever it is. Maybe you're single, or maybe you'll be married, or maybe you're married and you might be single. Like whatever that looks like. Think about what will your life look like 90 days from now if you can start forecasting that out and realizing that the structure you need today is going to be very different than the structure you need 90 days from now, and definitely different from the structure you needed 90 days ago. 90 days ago, we were dead middle of a soccer season where we're running a 7 through 12 soccer program. My life looks incredibly different. And ask yourself, do you react when your seasons change and choose to live in chaos? Or do you have the systems that help you respond by strategically restructuring? So this is what I'm encouraging you guys to do today. Instead of reacting and living in chaos when the seasons are changing, I want you to learn the tools, add more tools to your toolbox so you learn to respond by strategically restructuring your schedule when the seasons are changing. We have a lot of these tools that are available in our book club, so you can become a member of our book club. You head to the links for that. Or if you are like, I don't want to navigate this alone via podcast and downloading the tools, you can always jump into our group coaching program that are getting ready to launch. And then I have a couple spots still that are available this month to leap into some one-on-one coaching. So drop me a message on Instagram if any of this hit for you today. I always love hearing you process your thoughts. And again, remember, first of all, look at your 2026 goals. Where are you at? Check in with yourself. Is there something that you need to get grounded in reality and adjust? Do you need to make them a little bigger? Are you further ahead? Where are you at with that? Second, that was second. Sorry. Look at them. Number 2, adjust them. Number 3, head to your calendar. Get really comfy with your calendar. Get really comfy with your time. Plan your week. Be strategic about it. Schedule yourself. Y'all, I schedule myself to do everything. I schedule myself to make phone calls. I schedule myself to, do laundry. I schedule myself every single tiny task that I do for work that is on my daily task sheet. I'm scheduling it in throughout my day to make sure that I'm staying on time with myself. And then the fourth thing is accountability. Email somebody and have that accountability. If you don't have a coach, get a coach. So you have additional perspective, accountability, that processing partner, and somebody to help you analyze your blind spots. Thanks again for jumping in, y'all, today. Again, I don't care who you are. It is April. We are getting ready to enter Maycember. So I don't care if you are married, single, kids, no kids. We are in a season of change right now. So you need to sit and think about this. Drop me a message in Insta. Seriously, I want to hear your processing thoughts. And cannot wait to hear what y'all have to say. Can't wait to hear about the seasons and the things that are shifting and changing in your life. Thank you, everybody, for listening. And we will talk to all y'all next time. Thanks for listening to All Things Excellence. If something landed with you today, I'd love for you to follow the show, share it with a friend, or leave a quick review. It helps more women find these transformational conversations. And if you're ready for support with your next step, or needing someone to stand in the gap with you to figure out what that even is, I'd love to create that space for you. And my intro clarity call is a great place to start, because life is too quick and too full to have to figure it out alone. Until next time, All Things Excellence fam, thank you for listening.